My name is Rohit Ahuja and I will be presenting the screencast for DevOps Milestone 2 on behalf of my team. So as part of this milestone, we were required to create our own pipeline with a testing component and an analysis component. So I'll walk you through the tasks which you are required to accomplish. So the first one was that we were required to select a system under test. So the system that we selected was an open source project called Simple Sets. You can find the link for the same in the README. So as part of this pipeline, you are required to run certain tasks. So what I'll do is that I'll trigger a build first and I'll show you which of these tasks are accomplished as a part of the build, since it takes some time to run the build. So when I do a commit, the build will get triggered. So you can see over here that the build has been triggered. So you let the build run and I'll just walk you through what we have done. So the first part you're required to do was to run the unit tests which are part of the project, measure the coverage and report the results. So we ran the test cases using Mocha, measured the coverage using Istanbul, and then used Cobertura to report the results of Istanbul, since there is no plugin for Istanbul on Jenkins. The next thing we were required to do was to implement an advanced testing technique. So I'll show you about this. I'll show you this a bit later on. The third part we were required to do was to implement a basic analysis technique. So we ran an existing status analysis tool called GSHint on the code. In addition to the static analysis tool, we were required to implement certain custom statistics. So the metrics which there are three metrics which we are required to show. I'll explain these once the build completes. Also, the last part was that we were required to automatically accept or reject comments based on a certain criteria. This also I'll show you a bit later on in the podcast. So hopefully the build should have been completed by now. So yes, the build has been completed. You can see the test coverage over here, 85% conditionals, 96% lines. We can see the GSLint errors here, which are two GSLint errors, two GSLint warnings. If it was an error, it would have got rejected, the comment. Then to see the other custom metrics, I'll just go in the console. So here you can see npm install has run, and the first one basically tells us the maximum number of conditions in an if statement. So you can see that in this project, most of the functions, most of them do not have if statements, or even if they do, they have just one. The next one is used to detect long methods. Again, the project which we selected didn't have a lot of long methods, so we selected the threshold as 6. So any method more than 6 lines is reported as a long method. Again, this can be easily changed. The third one detects security tokens. So I'll explain this as a part of my next build. So now what I will do is that I will reduce the threshold, the testing threshold. So right now the threshold for testing is set as 80%. So what I'll do is I'll make this 90%, and along with this, what I will also do is that I will introduce a key which will get detected. Again, this is just a random key, random API token for DigitalOcean, and Now what should happen is that my post commit hook should detect that my test coverage is my branch coverage is less than the threshold, which is 90%, and it should reject the commit. So I'll add the two files. Just in case. Yeah, so you can see that you cannot proceed as the branch coverage is less than 90% over here. So so yeah, it got rejected, the commit. So now what I will do is that I will again increase the coverage to 80%, and I will run this. I know you didn't see the DigitalOcean token, but I'll get to that soon. So what I'll do is that you can see that no build got triggered, since it was less than the threshold, and the commit automatically got rejected. So now what I did was I corrected that. I reduced the threshold. So you can see that the build got triggered successfully this time, and my commit indeed got pushed, since my test coverage is more than 80%. So the build is running now. So while the build runs, I can show you the advanced testing technique which we implemented. So what we have done is that we have implemented a black box fuzzing technique as part of this as part of the advanced testing module. So what I'll do is that I'll run the code for that, and I'll show you the test cases which get generated. It's called fuzzer. So it's generating a lot of test cases, that's why it takes some time. So just so you can see that it's generated a lot of tests. There are almost 10,000 tests. So what I'll now do is I'll check the coverage which is generated with the help of these tests. So I'll use the Istanbul command. So Istanbul will measure the coverage for me. And I can see the coverage also. So you can see that my fuzzing technique almost covered like 76% of the branches, 87% of the statements, and it ran through a lot of the statements more than 10,000 times. So this is the advanced testing technique which we have implemented. Also the build should have completed by now, hopefully. So if I go in the build and the sole output, you So here I can see that it comes, you may be committing a file with a security token or API key. This file is the one with the security token, so I need to remove this security token. Yeah, so if I remove the security token and I run the build again, I'll not get this message. So yeah, I guess that's it. I ran through all the components which you are required to implement. Thank you.